In just 31 months, America's white-collar workforce didn't slow down. It started vanishing. In March, the economy added 178,000 jobs, and unemployment sat at 4.3%. Clean numbers for a dirty reality. Behind them, 7.2 million Americans were still unemployed. Quits were stuck at 1.9%, and white-collar job postings had fallen 12.7% in 1 year. That is not confidence. That is fear with a resume attached. The office class was promised safety, degree, salary, benefits, career ladder. Now the ladder is being pulled up while companies call it efficiency. This is how the middle class collapses, not with a factory closing, but with an inbox full of rejection emails. The first trick is simple. Show the public one giant employment number, then bury the damage inside the details. A headline can say 178,000 jobs were added. A press release can say unemployment is only 4.3%. Markets can pretend that means stability. But those numbers do not tell you what kind of jobs are being created, what kind of jobs are disappearing, or how many people are being forced to accept work that pays less than the life they already built. That is where the real collapse begins, because an economy can technically add jobs while destroying careers. It can create lower-wage healthcare, food service, government, warehouse, and social assistance roles while cutting the salaried positions that used to hold up mortgage payments, car notes, retirement contributions, childcare bills, student loans, and middle-class spending. That is not recovery. That is replacement with a downgrade. White-collar workers are not just another category in a labor report. They are the people who were told the system would reward education, discipline, productivity, and loyalty. They took on $30,000, $60,000, even $100,000 in student debt because the promise was clear. Get the degree, enter the office economy, build stability. Now that same economy is shrinking the office floor while pretending the building is still full. And the damage is not small. Professional and business services employs more than 22 million Americans. Information, finance, consulting, tech, marketing, HR, administration, and corporate support are not side industries. They are the machinery of the modern middle class. When these fields stall, freeze hiring, or quietly cut payroll, the pain does not stay inside the company. It moves through rent payments, credit cards, restaurants, home sales, vacations, insurance premiums, and local tax revenue. This is why the unemployment rate alone is such a dangerous distraction. It does not show the analyst driving for gig income after a layoff. It does not show the project manager taking a lower-paying contract without benefits. It does not show the graduate applying to 300 jobs and getting automated silence. It does not show the worker still employed, but terrified, overworked, and one calendar invite away from being erased. The official economy is counting bodies. The real economy is losing futures. The damage hidden inside the headline economy becomes impossible to ignore once the focus moves from total jobs to the office economy itself. This is where the numbers stop looking stable and start looking surgical. In March, financial activities employment fell by 15,000, driven by a 16,000 job loss in finance and insurance. That sector is now down 77,000 jobs since its peak in May 2025. Professional and business services showed little change, which sounds harmless until you remember this is a sector that employs more than 22 million Americans and used to be one of the main engines of upward mobility. When a giant engine stops growing, the silence is not neutral, it is warning. This is why calling it a slowdown is too soft. A slowdown means the machine is still moving, just at a lower speed. What is happening now is more brutal. The machine is being redesigned to need fewer people. Finance, tech, consulting, marketing, HR, recruiting, administration, software, corporate strategy. The comfortable-looking jobs behind glass buildings and laptop screens are being squeezed by cost-cutting, automation, offshoring, hiring freezes, and vanished expansion plans. The old office promise was simple: trade time, education, debt, and loyalty for stability. Now companies are breaking that promise while keeping the language clean, and the openings are collapsing before workers even get a chance to compete. Revelio Labs reported that new white-collar job postings dropped 12.7% from Q1 2024 to Q1 2025, with demand for roles like software developer and business analyst falling even faster than the average. That means the pain is not limited to one unlucky sector. It is spreading across the exact career paths that were supposed to protect people from economic chaos. The most dangerous part is that white-collar decline does not always look dramatic at first. There are no boarded-up factories, no smokestacks shutting down, no dramatic footage of workers walking out in hard hats. It happens quietly through calendar invites, revoked job postings, frozen departments, restructuring language, and severance packages wrapped in corporate politeness. But the result is savage. A worker making $90,000 does not fall into a $45,000 job without tearing a hole through their entire life. The mortgage does not shrink. The rent does not care. The student loan does not pause out of sympathy. The car payment still arrives. The childcare bill still hits. The economy calls it efficiency. For millions of office workers, it feels like a recession with fluorescent lighting. That white-collar recession becomes even more dangerous when the exits disappear. Losing a job is one level of pain. Losing a job in a market where the replacement roles are quietly vanishing is something much darker. Because the old assumption was simple: if one company cuts you, another company will hire you. But that bridge is breaking. In February, U.S. job openings fell to 6.9 million, down from 7.2 million in January, while the hiring rate dropped to 3.1%, matching the pandemic low level from April 2020. That is not a hot labor market. That is a market freezing while still pretending to move. This is the part the headlines cannot soften. Job openings are not just numbers on a government chart. They are escape routes. They are second chances. They are the difference between a layoff becoming a temporary disruption and a layoff becoming a personal financial collapse. When openings shrink, every resume competes against more people, more automation, more internal candidates, more budget delays, and more hiring managers who suddenly pause the search after collecting hundreds of applications. And white-collar workers are being hit directly in that bottleneck. Revelio Labs reported that new white-collar job postings fell 12.7% from Q1 2024 to Q1 2025. And over the longer period from Q1 2023 to Q1 2025, white-collar postings were down about 35.8%. That means the weakness is not a temporary glitch. It is a 2-year erosion of the career market itself. The office jobs are not waiting patiently on the other side. They are being deleted before people even reach the interview stage. This changes the psychology of work. A worker who believes opportunities are everywhere will quit a bad job, demand better pay, or refuse disrespect. But a worker who sees openings disappearing becomes trapped. That is why the quits rate matters so much. In February, quits were stuck around 3.0 million, with the quits rate at 1.9%. People are not staying because they suddenly love the workplace. They are staying because the outside market looks like a cliff. So the collapse moves from layoffs to fear. Fear makes workers accept lower raises. Fear makes them tolerate heavier workloads. Fear makes them compete for jobs paying $20,000 or $30,000 less than the salary they lost. And once fear becomes the main force in the labor market, the economy does not need mass unemployment to break people. It only needs fewer doors than people trying to escape. When real openings disappear, the next layer of the collapse becomes even more cruel. People are not just competing for fewer jobs, they are competing for jobs that may not even exist. This is where the labor market stops functioning like a marketplace and starts feeling like a trap. A worker can spend 2 hours tailoring a resume, another hour rewriting a cover letter, then wait weeks for a response from a company that was never seriously hiring in the first place. This is not imagination. Surveys and hiring platform data have repeatedly pointed to the same ugly pattern. A large share of online job listings remain active even when companies have no immediate plan to fill them. The Wall Street Journal reported that greenhouse data suggested up to 22% of advertised roles may never be filled, while a resume builder survey cited by The Guardian found around 40% of companies had posted fake or ghost listings in 2024. That means the job seeker is not only fighting other applicants, they are fighting corporate theater. Some listings exist to collect resumes for later. Some exist to make a company look like it is expanding. Some exist to pressure existing workers by making them feel replaceable. Some stay online because internal systems are broken, budgets are frozen, or hiring managers want the illusion of movement without the cost of payroll. And the psychological damage is enormous, because every ignored application feels personal, even when the process is fake. Every automated rejection feels like proof that your degree, experience, and years of work have lost value. If someone applies to 100 jobs and even 20 are dead listings, that is not just wasted time. That is unpaid labor poured into a machine designed to produce silence. This is how the white-collar crisis mutates from financial pressure into emotional exhaustion. First, the career market shrinks, then the openings vanish, then the remaining listings become unreliable. The worker is left refreshing inboxes, rewriting resumes, adjusting keywords, and questioning their own worth while companies hide behind polished hiring pages and cheerful, "we're growing" language. A real recession closes doors. This one leaves the doors painted on the wall. The ghost job economy already proves the labor market is becoming less honest. But AI adds something even colder. Companies no longer need to delete every position to weaken the worker. They can delete pieces of the job first. That is why the AI threat is not always a robot replacing an entire person overnight. It is quieter than that. It begins when a report that once took 3 analysts now takes 1 employee and a prompt. It begins when customer summaries, spreadsheets, legal drafts, marketing copy, code checks, hiring filters, and financial reconciliations stop being full workloads and become software-assisted fragments. This is the real redesign. Revelio Labs found that the share of AI-exposed tasks listed in job ads fell from 29% in early 2022 to 25.5% by early 2025, suggesting companies are removing automatable duties from job descriptions instead of simply announcing mass AI replacement. That sounds technical, but the meaning is brutal. The work is not disappearing from the economy all at once. It is being carved out of the role before the role is even posted. So a company may still hire a finance associate, but strip away the routine analysis. It may still hire a marketer, but expect one person to produce what a small team handled before. It may still keep a project manager, but load them with dashboards, AI tools, and impossible timelines. The job title survives. The job underneath gets compressed. And compression is where the middle class starts to bleed. Because if software can absorb 20% or 30% of a role's tasks, management does not need to fire everyone. It only needs to stop replacing departures, merge departments, freeze entry-level hiring, and demand higher output from the survivors. That is how a company can cut labor costs without creating one dramatic layoff headline. This is especially dangerous for young workers. Entry-level office jobs used to be where people learned the boring work, checking reports, cleaning data, drafting emails, preparing slides, doing research, supporting senior staff. But those are exactly the tasks AI can attack first. If the bottom rung disappears, the career ladder does not just get shorter, it breaks at the floor. AI is not only replacing workers, it is teaching corporations how to need fewer humans while still pretending the office is fully staffed. Once AI starts compressing the job, the power shift becomes unavoidable. The worker is no longer negotiating from strength. They are negotiating from fear. And fear is exactly what gives employers room to do what they could not do during the hiring boom. Raise expectations, reduce flexibility, cut benefits, freeze raises, enforce return-to-office policies, and still expect gratitude from the people left behind. This is the new office economy. The job title stays professional, but the conditions underneath become harsher. One worker absorbs the workload of 2. A team of 10 becomes 7. A department loses 3 people, but the deadline does not move. The salary band gets tighter. The bonus becomes uncertain. The promotion gets delayed. The company says efficiency, but the worker hears something else. Do more, ask less, and remember there are hundreds of applicants waiting outside. That is why the falling quits rate matters. When quits drop to around 1.9%, it means workers are no longer confident enough to walk away. They may hate the workload. They may know the pay is not keeping up with rent, groceries, insurance, childcare, and interest rates. But leaving a bad job becomes risky when the next job may not exist, may pay $15,000 less, or may trap them in a contract role with no real benefits. The resignation letter used to be leverage. Now it feels like a financial weapon pointed at yourself. And employers know it. That is why the soft cuts are spreading. Not every collapse comes as a layoff announcement. Some come through smaller raises, weaker healthcare plans, fewer paid days off, reduced parental leave, removed office perks, tighter attendance rules, and performance systems designed to rank people against each other. A company can save millions without calling it a mass firing. It can strip the workplace piece by piece and still tell employees they are lucky to be there. This is the part that turns the white-collar recession into a control system. Workers who remain employed are not untouched. They are often carrying the emotional tax of everyone who disappeared. They must prove they are productive, prove they are adaptable, prove they can use AI, prove they can survive pressure, prove they are worth keeping for another quarter. The layoff destroys one paycheck. The fear of layoffs disciplines everyone else. That fear does not stay inside the office. It follows workers home, sits beside the mortgage bill, enters the grocery aisle, and changes every purchase before unemployment ever appears on paper. A white-collar worker making $85,000 who suddenly fears a layoff does not spend like a secure worker anymore. They delay the car, cancel the vacation, cut restaurants, stop upgrading furniture, pay only the minimum on credit cards, hold cash because the next email could erase the income that supports the entire household. This is how a labor market crisis becomes a consumer crisis. The middle class is not just a group of employees, it is the spending engine behind housing, travel, retail, insurance, subscriptions, childcare, and local businesses. When millions of salaried workers lose confidence, the damage spreads through the economy like a power outage, moving from city to city. And the math is vicious. A household built around a $7,000 monthly income cannot smoothly survive on $4,000 without cutting deep. Rent does not politely adjust. Student loans do not care. Auto payments, daycare, health premiums, and grocery bills keep arriving like nothing changed. The office collapse does not end at the cubicle. It reaches the checkout line. And suddenly, the strong economy has fewer people left willing to buy it. And once middle-class spending starts cracking, the next generation sees the trap before they even enter it. For decades, the deal was simple. Borrow the money, get the degree, enter the professional class, and pay it back with a stable salary. But that promise is collapsing in real time. The average federal student loan balance is around $37,000, and many graduates leave school owing far more, only to face entry-level job listings that demand experience, pay $45,000 or less, or disappear after collecting applications. This is not just a bad launch, it is a broken pipeline. The same office economy cutting mid-level workers is also shrinking junior roles, automating basic tasks, freezing training positions, and forcing new graduates to compete against people with 5 or 10 years of experience. The bottom rung of the ladder is being removed while millions are still paying for the ladder. That is what makes this collapse so dangerous. It does not only punish workers already inside the system, it tells young Americans that the safest path they were sold may no longer lead anywhere. The degree is still expensive. The doorway behind it is getting smaller. Once the college-to-career pipeline breaks, the fallback is no longer a better job. It is fragmented income. The salaried worker who once had benefits, PTO, a predictable paycheck, and a retirement match is being pushed toward contract work, consulting scraps, freelance platforms, delivery apps, tutoring, reselling, weekend shifts, and temporary projects. The title may still sound professional, but the income starts behaving like a gig account. Unstable, irregular, and never enough to fully relax. This is the quiet demotion of the office class. The Federal Reserve found that about 20% of adults participated in gig work in the prior month in 2024, but only 21% of those gig workers considered it their main job. That means most are not chasing freedom. They are patching holes. They are using extra income to cover bills, debt, rent pressure, food costs, or the gap left by wages that no longer match the economy around them. And when white-collar careers fracture, the damage is brutal because the expenses were built for stability. A household with a $2,400 rent, a $600 car payment, student loans, insurance premiums, and credit card balances cannot survive on scattered payments arriving whenever an algorithm decides there is work. The office worker is not becoming independent. They are becoming unprotected. And once stable careers turn into scattered income, the final damage is no longer just financial. It becomes psychological, because people can survive a bad month. They can survive a layoff. They can survive a brutal job search. But what happens when millions stop trusting the entire system that told them to work hard, get educated, stay loyal, and wait for the reward? That is where America is now. Workers do not trust job postings because too many are fake, frozen, or already filled. They do not trust corporations because loyalty disappears the moment profit margins need polishing. They do not trust degrees because $37,000 in average student debt can now lead to rejection emails and unstable contract work. They do not trust salaries because one meeting can erase a $90,000 income and replace it with silence. They do not trust strong economy headlines because their rent, grocery bills, insurance premiums, and credit card balances are telling a completely different story. This is not just a labor market problem anymore. It is a collapse of belief. The office class was once the proof that the American system still worked. Study, specialize, climb, buy the house, build the family, retire with dignity. Now that same class is watching benefits shrink, workloads rise, openings vanish, and AI turn career ladders into trap doors. And when trust breaks, behavior changes. People stop spending confidently. They stop planning long term. They delay children, delay homes, delay medical care, delay dreams. They hold cash, cut risk, avoid commitments, and move through life like the next disaster is already scheduled. That is the real white-collar collapse. Not just fewer jobs, not just weaker pay, not just another round of layoffs buried under clean language. It is the moment an entire professional class realizes the promise was never guaranteed. And once millions of educated workers stop believing in the system, the economy does not need a crash siren. The silence becomes the warning.